Hey, this is Mike for the Run Testers, and it is the day after my final race of 2024, the RunThrough Battersea Park 5K, where there was also a 10K race taking place. Now, we know this race and route pretty well. We've done previous race tests there, and this was really my opportunity to do one last race test in a shoe that I've been desperate to race in, but just haven't had the opportunity to do that. And that shoe that I'm talking about is this shoe, the Diadora Gara Carbon. Definitely one of the surprise shoe launches of 2024. Now, what I'm going to do is take you through how I got in that race, how the Diadora Gara Carbon fared, and then talk about some other kit that I was also testing for that little run out around Battersea Park. Now, thanks to RunThrough for providing the entry to the race. And as always, an immaculately organised race to take part in. So let's get into it. So a little bit about the route and the race itself. Now, as mentioned, this is one that we know pretty well. And I think if you race and run around London, you probably know the route very well. Now, as I was doing the 5K variant of this race, I had to do 2 laps of the course. Now, this was a RunThrough Chase the Moon event. So it's an evening race. Like other events that are at the evening at this time of the year, lighting, particularly in parts, can be a little bit challenging. But I would say overall, it was very good for this race, and it hasn't always been the case for some races. This is what I've done with these Chase the Moon events, where some of these sections of the course, probably need or could do a little bit more lighting. But for this one, it was very good. Now, the course itself is very flat and quick. There's a reason why, a lot of people go and do the Battersea Park run, which has recently been introduced. And it is a fast 5K, 10K race to do. Now, apart from a few turns, they're really kind of straight, so you can really kind of kick on and hit your quickest pace here. Now, in terms of how I did, I ran 20:53. I think there was a lot of quick 5K runners in that race, and not my quickest this year. My quickest was back in April when I did the Asics 5K race out in Paris, but very happy with that time. Means there's still some kind of running kind of speed in those legs, and kind of where I need to be at this time of the year. So yeah, it's a course that I've liked. I know it's a quick one, and it felt pretty good, and my legs felt pretty good on that race. Not my quickest, but definitely happy with the time. So into the shoe testing. Now, in terms of my kind of shorter distance running with the Gara Carbon, I have done some kind of quicker park run outings with it, and it kind of fared very well from that point of view. Now, this was a good flat kind of quick course to kind of see what it was really made of, and I feel like it really held up from that point of view. I think what I like about the Gara Carbon, particularly at this distance, is that it is a light shoe. When you look at it against some other carbon racing shoes, but it has a little bit more heft to them. It definitely feels more geared towards longer distances. The Gara Carbon, a little bit like the Metaspeed Sky Paris, a little bit like the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3, has a very good weight for shorter distance running. Now, in terms of that feel of running at my 5K pace in this shoe, it feels very good to do. It's very lively. When you look at how that midsole feels, just kind of squeezing into it, it's very squishy and squash, but it doesn't feel like, you're sinking into it too much. You've got that carbon plate, and I think the placement of the carbon plate works very well there. And the ride in it is very comfortable, I would say, first and foremost, but there's an aggression there as well too. There's some propulsive feeling there as well, and that's kind of what you want. And, I do feel like, it holds that well over, or it did hold that well over that distance. I never felt like it lost that, and it never felt uncomfortable. It never felt too, unstable for me in that race. And I feel like there's real qualities I really like about the Gara Carbon, and I feel particularly at that shorter distance. I think the key things that I probably don't absolutely love about the shoe, I think more so I probably want to see tweaked, is I do think the upper could be worked at a little bit more. I think the profile for it could sit a little bit closer. I think it's clearly a balance to try and make it roomy and spacious for longer distances, but also giving you that kind of racing profile fit. And I do think it kind of gets that balance right, but I think maybe it still could refine things on that front, because I think everything else kind of works there for me. I feel like it's, a really nice, fast, lightweight shoe to run in. I feel like the ride really, feels like it's built for racing, and that's kind of was my experience and has been my experience in previous testing in this shoe as well. So for me, while it wasn't my quickest 5k race time, it definitely felt well at, you know, at home at that 5k race pace, or near to my, you know, kind of best 5k race pace, and I really enjoyed running it in and racing in it in that race. So yeah, for me, you know, definitely a shoe that I do feel that can work at those shorter distances, and one that I felt was a good match for that race. So some quick thoughts on some other kit that I was testing. So the other big thing that was, you know, the first time I was testing were these headphones, and these are the new Sony LinkBuds Open. Now we've tested the previous LinkBuds before, and these are, you know, open ear, kind of truly wireless earbuds that are about keeping your listening safe and, you know, still keeping you in tune with your surroundings. Now, we did really like the Sony LinkBuds. I think for me, you know, once I got the fit to work for me, I think the sound performance is really good. But, you know, we've seen a lot happen in that space, you know, since the LinkBuds have come out. You know, we've got the Bose Ultra Open, you know, the Shocks OpenFit and OpenFit Air, and there's definitely other options out there outside of the Sony LinkBuds. And a key difference for me with the LinkBuds Open is that you've still got that kind of ringed, kind of donut shaped design, but you've now got an ear hook to improve that fit. And I always found that if you didn't get that fit absolutely fine with the previous LinkBuds, then, you know, there was a tendency that it could feel unsafe or unsecure and may have a tendency to fall out. I think that's definitely been a different case for me in that first test. Now, I did have some initial concerns whether they were going to stay put as I got going, but actually, no issues whatsoever in terms of the fit. The sound performance was actually really good for me. Now, I was playing around with the sound performance as I was traveling to the race, and, you know, you have a companion app, and I do think you need to use that companion app. Well, there's a lot going on in that companion app, but there's an EQ or presets for EQs there that I do think are worth digging into to get the most rewarding sound from the Sony LinkBuds Open, because out of the box they don't sound, you know, particularly, you know, better than some of those other earbuds that I've spoken about. But once I did do that, and as I said, the fit was very good for me in that race, I'd be interested to see how they'd fare over longer distances, whether that, you know, comfort is there over longer distances as well. But for me, from a fit point of view, and the sound quality and battery life performance, it all looked very good for me from the Sony LinkBuds Open. So in terms of other things I was testing, it was more a case of additional testing with the Coros Pace Pro and the Coros Pace 3. Now we've got a comparison video with those two watches coming up on the channel, but this was my opportunity to do or use them for a racing scenario. And what I found is, from a GPS point of view, the Coros Pace Pro actually performed better for me. It was closer to that 5k distance, and what that meant was things like pacing was a little bit more accurate. I think battery life generally was pretty good. The drop off I'd expect to see. There's a little bit more drop off on the Coros Pace Pro simply because it's got that AMOLED display, and that's kind of what I'd expect to see. Pretty short distance race, I wouldn't expect to see a massive drop, but there was maybe a little bit more on the Pace Pro. Really, it was a kind of additional GPS test for me, and the Pace Pro came out on top. So yeah, generally some very good testing from that race. The Diadora Gara Carbon, still, you know, a shoe that's really kind of left a really good impression for me this year in my running and now racing. A good kind of first run with the Sony LinkBuds Open, and more good testing with the Coros Pace Pro against the Coros Pace 3. Okay, so they have it, a 5k race test with the Diadora Gara Carbon alongside a first run with the Sony LinkBuds Open and some additional testing with the Coros Pace Pro versus the Pace 3. Now, if you've got any questions about any of that kit that I've talked about in this video, do let us know in the comments. As always, like and subscribe, hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos. And yeah, we'll see you in the next Run Testers video.